Hello everyone, and today, for one of the first times I'm recording a video at night, so I'm gonna have to be quite quiet. I hope the sound is good because I am speaking very quietly. So the topic of this video is that I'm going to be sorting Star Wars characters into Hogwarts houses from Harry Potter. I have a few listed on my screen here right now that I have thought of and decided. If I think of any more characters, I'll just write them down and maybe I'll make a part 2 to this. Okay, so let's start with Anakin Skywalker. Now this should be pretty obvious, but to some it might not be because Slytherin could also be a good option for Anakin, but I decided to go with Gryffindor because he doesn't want power for the sake of having power. He wants it to save Padme, which isn't really a Gryffindor thing still. That's kind of a Hufflepuff thing, but he walks into enemy lines. It's nothing like he never loses, and he knows he won't lose, and that's pretty brave in my opinion for which Gryffindor's thing is kind of braveness. Sorry about that. Now again, an obvious one will be Palpatine in Slytherin. Now, Palpatine in Slytherin should be pretty obvious. I mean, he wants power for the sake of power. He has no redeeming qualities. Even as a child, he despised the Jedi because, like, he thought, like, these guys have this power and they're using it to keep peace. And if I had this power, I'd just rule the galaxy. And that's like, if that doesn't scream Slytherin, I don't know what does. Now, kind of an obscure character this time. Darth Tenebrous. Now, Darth Tenebrous, if you didn't know, is Darth Sidious's master's master. So Darth Plagueis' master in this case. And I decided to go with Ravenclaw because Tenebrous always is so obsessed with like doing some science stuff with midichlorians. And even Plagueis observed his midichlorians, like the manner of his midichlorians when he killed Tenebrous. So Plagueis knows he was up to something. Next, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I debated a lot on this, but in the end I did decide to go with Hufflepuff. Now, Obi-Wan decides to treat Anakin like a brother rather than a son or just some student, and that's kind of the Hufflepuff thing. I mean, I don't know what says Hufflepuff if that doesn't. Like, he could have treated Anakin like an inferior being, but he didn't. He always spoke with humility to Anakin. So that's why I decided to put Obi-Wan in Hufflepuff. Although an argument could be made for Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin. Anyway, Yoda, Ravenclaw. Now, this should be pretty obvious because, like, he's 900 years old. But now that I think about it, because the hat sorts characters into houses when they're, like, really young, we don't know much about Yoda's youth, but from his looks, when he looks like a brave dude. I mean, he could actually be a Gryffindor. I mean, if I lived 900 years, I'd be as wise as Yoda, probably. So yeah, Gryffindor. I think I've changed my mind. It's Gryffindor. Cal Kestis, Hufflepuff. Now, this should be pretty obvious. He cares about others more than himself. He's always like speaking in the low tone with humility and stuff. He always speaks to Seer, like Seer is his teacher, basically. He rarely shouts, so I think he's done Hufflepuff. And when his master dies, he's like real sad. Of course, I mean, if my master died, if my teachers died, I'd be sad as well, of course. Jar Jar Binks, Gryffindor. Now, Jar Jar Binks could not be Slytherin unless you're one of those Darth Jar Jar theorists. Definitely not a Ravenclaw. Could be a Hufflepuff, but I decided to go with Gryffindor because in the middle of the war, someone as clumsy as Jar Jar goes on to the war zone and tries to do some stuff, and actually does, thanks to his clumsiness. So could be an argument for Hufflepuff. I decided to go with Gryffindor. Next, Kylo Ren. I really couldn't find anything for Kylo Ren. Some might say Slytherin, like clearly Slytherin. What are you talking about? Why can't you find anything that's clearly Slytherin? But that's because he thought Luke hated him. That's why he turned to the dark side, and Snoke had manipulated him since he was a child, basically. Next, Rey Slytherin. Now, not because I hate Rey. I actually like her as a character. This might seem quite weird for a Jedi, but now she knows she wants power, and she hides from it. She knows if she doesn't hide from power, then power will eventually consume her. And that's what almost happens. She almost does kill Palpatine. So that's why I decided to go for Slytherin over Hufflepuff or Gryffindor or even Ravenclaw. But an argument could be made for all houses, kind of like Kylo Ren. Chewbacca, Hufflepuff. Han Solo, Griffin. Okay, I'll explain it. Of course, like not putting Chewbacca in Hufflepuff is kind of a sin. Like, no, like he's a Hufflepuff. Like you can see it when you look at Chewie. Like, oh yeah, okay, that's a Hufflepuff. Moving on, next. Okay, Gryffindor. Han Solo, Gryffindor. Could be made an argument for Slytherin. He's quite an ambitious guy, but I decided to go with Gryffindor because I always debate between Slytherin and Gryffindor for every character. It's like ambition, bravery. What's the difference? Like, could be either. But in the end, I did go for Gryffindor. For Han Solo because he's just that, like, he has nerves. He can do, like, come on, like, he can do anything. He might not, he'll try. If you pay him, he'll do it. If you don't, he won't do nothing. Okay. Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata, Ravenclaw. She's wise, she's smart, but again, if I was 1,000 years old, I'd be as wise as her. So, again, we don't know anything about Maz's youth, so I just went for Ravenclaw, so, from what we know from her, 1,000th year. So that's why I went Ravenclaw for Maz. Next, Snoke, Slytherin. Should be pretty obvious. Leader of the First Order, called Supreme Leader. Of course, he'll be a Slytherin, kind of like Palpatine, just a less extreme version of Palpatine. Next, Mace Windu, Gryffindor or Slytherin. I was debating between the two, I couldn't decide. Now, going to kill the Chancellor in front of, well, one of the Chancellor's best friends and one of the most powerful Jedi is quite an ambitious thing, but also a very brave thing, and going against all those droids in the Clone Wars with just one, like, zoom lightsaber is also pretty brave and ambitious, but that's for all Jedis. And Excuse me. So I couldn't decide between the two. And how do you like my Elder Wand? Do you like it? Pretty cool. Look at her. Anyway, Ahsoka Tano Gryffindor could be Hufflepuff, but excuse me, could not be Hufflepuff actually. Leaving the Jedi Order is a pretty brave thing in my opinion. She has a lot of traits from her master, who I also put in Gryffindor. She's like, oh, I'm just gonna charge into a bunch of droid ships with... Sorry, I'm a little sick. Which is like 2 of my own ships and expect to win. That's pretty brave in my opinion. Next, Luke Skywalker, Gryffindor. Should be pretty obvious. Could be Hufflepuff too. Could be also Ravenclaw. At episode 6 and 8, he does seem pretty wise, but again, we don't. That's because of age. He's Gryffindor. He goes to fight Vader. That's a pretty Gryffindor thing. Finding new grace, nightmare, etc., etc. Next, Wilhuff Tarkin, Slytherin. He wants a Death Star. That's ambitious. He wants to get rid of Drexel Krennic. That's ambitious. He wants to do a lot more things. That's ambitious. That should be pretty clear why he's in Slytherin. Boba Fett, Gryffindor. Any bounty hunter really could be, in my opinion, I think is a Gryffindor. Next and lastly for now, Qui-Gon Jinn, Ravenclaw. Again, it could be because of age, but I've heard that Qui-Gon was always pretty wise. If you want any more characters for me to sort into Hogwarts houses, leave them in the comment section down below. And Imperio, you will like that like button if that didn't work. You will like... Wait, no. You will like that like button? No. Imperio, you will click that like button. If that didn't work, you will click that like button. Jedi magic should work. Anyway. Anyway, have a great rest of your day or night. And that's all of the characters. If you have a different opinion, by the way, please, please, please leave them in the comment section down below. I read and reply to... I read all... reply to most comments. So, I don't really have many comments to read, honestly. So, I read all of them because they're just like one or two usually, maybe usually 0. But anyway, have a good day or night. Peace.